undisputed world champ. Football. We're almost that close to that pigskin. Only 2 months away from the NFL season opener, and just nearly a couple of months away from the college football season. The Pittsburgh Steelers. They decided to make some big moves. They made some big moves. They traded the Miami Dolphins. They traded Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith, and a 2007 7th-round pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers in exchange for Minkah Fitzpatrick and a 2007 5th-round choice. To me, champ, I think the Steelers won this one. Because one, Minkah Fitzpatrick is going back to the team he previously was and wanted to get traded from. Now, do I think this is going to elevate Pittsburgh as far as competing for a Super Bowl? No, I still believe it's Baltimore's division to lose. And you and I released a video on my Instagram profile, Sports PSP, that it should be Baltimore's. This should be their time to win the AFC, not just the division, but the AFC, considering all the moves that they've made in the offseason. I think for me, the Steelers won this trade because I have no faith, no trust in the Dolphins organization at this point. You know, they just got Darren Waller back from a trade, but Darren Waller has missed some time from football. So he's older, and if you miss like a year or two, that is kind of concerning to me because, yeah, you may be in shape for the ordinary 32-year-old man, but football shape. But I think for the Steelers, they won this one because I don't see Miami doing anything with it. Again, we had this discussion with Kevin Durant. You made the argument Houston won this trade because you don't see anything with the Phoenix Suns organization to do anything with these 5 second-round picks and the first-round pick that they had. So I think for the Steelers, they won this one. This will help their chances as far as competing within the AFC North. Do I see them winning the division? No, because I still don't trust Aaron Rodgers at this point in his career compared to a Lamar Jackson. And if you told me Cincinnati wouldn't improve their defense and Mike Brown wouldn't be so cheap as an owner, I would like to believe that the Cincinnati Bengals would definitely compete in that division with Baltimore. And we all know Cleveland at this point, Lord have mercy. But talk to me, big fella. Who won this trade?
That really nobody won. It was just a swap out. None of them are going anywhere fast. The Steelers are going nowhere fast, and the Dolphins are going nowhere fast.
But if you had to pick one.
If I had to pick one, I would say the Steelers. They're going to move Jalen Ramsey to probably safety and go with the younger players at corner because they're already saying that they're going to give him a lot of looks at safety. But if you look at Minkah Fitzpatrick, he looks a little bit slower than previous years. I know he made the Pro Bowl, but as we all know, that doesn't mean as much as it did back in, the older days, back in the early 2000s. It's purely fan voting. So he made the Pro Bowl, but, if you really look at the tape, he looks a lot slower. He looks a lot behind a lot of plays in Pittsburgh. So I have to say the Pittsburgh Steelers won. But like I said, none of them took a stride. This is not one of those steps where, okay, this is going to put you in playoff contention to take you out of it. If you ask me, both of these teams are going to be competing for a 6th or 7th seed at best. At best, they're not, and more than likely they're going to lose in the first round. And then we're going to repeat this same question all over again about Tua, about Michael McDaniel, and more importantly, Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Should they fire him? We're going to be a lot of conversations, I believe. We're going to be right back here next year on the Sports PSP podcast on the 3rd of July in 2026. I might be in Aruba somewhere, but we're going to still do the show, and we're going to still be talking about the Miami Dolphins. We're going to still be talking about Mike McDaniels and how he's becoming the poor man's version of Mike Shanahan. And we're going to be talking about how Mike Tomlin should be fired and going somewhere else. We're going to be having this same discussion next year, especially if the unthinkable happens and Mike Tomlin has a losing season. We're really going to, because I believe that's what's saving him at this point. It's kind of like when you make a C's on your report card, you this close to a butt whooping from your parents, and you keep making that C on your report card to kind of keep them off you. But you know that big test coming up, and your parents know that big test coming up, and you fail that test, that's going to put you at an F, and now you fail the semester. That's all they're going to need, and that's all they're going to need is fuel to the fire. So we're going to be revisiting this conversation, a lot of conversations again next year. I have no faith in the Dolphins. I have no faith in the Steelers. It's going to be a lot of hoopla, just like it is going into this season. But the winner of this trade is the Steelers. But I don't really see it. It's not going to make any team all the time. Not much. It's like, you won. It's kind of like what's that video game? It's kind of like beating Tetris on stage one. Kind of like beating Tetris on stage one. Yeah, you won, but you still haven't passed. You still haven't went to level 10 and solved the puzzle. So you really.
Well, to me, in this situation, it's like kind of like winning. It's like getting an average looking woman over a Mariah Mills. That's just me. I mean, like, if you stick with Mariah Mills, then all hell breaks loose. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna keep on doing that. But look, my thing is with the Steelers. I said it before, champ. After this season, they should move on from Mike Tomlin. Does he deserve to be fired based on his record and based on what he's done for Pittsburgh? No. But you've talked about it before, champ. It's not good enough just to barely make the playoffs and have all these winning seasons. You talked about how Pittsburgh, how they had this rich, great tradition and standard. Before New England tied the record, they had the most Super Bowls. That's no longer the case anymore. And they still haven't succeeded with the quarterback position post Ben Roethlisberger era. I mean, you've had Kenny Pickett, you've had Russell Wilson, you've had other quarterbacks. That hasn't panned out. You bring in Aaron Rodgers, and some Steelers fans, they'll look at it and say, well, he threw 28 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, almost 4,000 yards. But you're just really stat watching, because if you look at the season, it wasn't really that good. If you just look at the tape, it wasn't really that good. Aaron Rodgers was to help the Jets go far. They haven't been to the conference championship game since 2010. That was when they had back-to-back AFC championship appearances with Rex Ryan, the head coach, with Mark Sanchez, the quarterback. And they had a really good defense at that time. So my thing is with the Pittsburgh Steelers, can they make the playoffs? Sure. But in the end, what is that going to do? That's not really much to brag or say anything about. And I think for Miami, okay, you bring in Darren Waller, but he's in his 30s and he's missed some time from football. And look, he was trying a new career in rap. I don't blame him for that. If that career doesn't work out for you, you got to find alternatives. You got to find other ways in life in order for you to earn a living. With that being said, it's really not much to brag about. Only reason why I say Steelers is because Minkah Fitzpatrick is going back to the team he wanted that team to trade him. That's how I look at it. He's back in Miami. Only positive thing he'll look at it, hey, he's back in South Beach. But as far as competing, as far as getting to the playoffs is concerned, we all know it's Buffalo's division to lose at this point. And when you look at the AFC North, it's Baltimore's. And assuming if Mike Brown wouldn't be so petty and cheap, and if he prioritized defense, like you said, and we talked about how they still haven't addressed Shamar Stewart. They still haven't addressed Trey Hendrickson, but they took care of T. Higgins, Jamar Chase. You didn't have a problem with that because you said to yourself, if they lose both of them, I'm Joe Burrow, I demand a trade. But for me, the only reason why I say Pittsburgh, because again, it's really not much to brag about. You just got to look at the circumstances of it. I don't trust the Miami Dolphins at this point to do anything with those draft picks and to optimize their situations. As for Pittsburgh, this is what you're settling. This is what you're dealing with. And it's really sad for Pittsburgh because you had this great, rich tradition. And now he's slipping. He's fumbling the bag as far as I'm concerned.
Not to mention, especially with the Steelers, you got to worry about bringing your best player back.
TJ Watt.
So you got to worry about him too. He's trying to get Jamar Chase type money because he may very well be on his last contract in the NFL. So you got a lot of stuff coming at you. There's not enough hands to catch it. So you gotta address a lot of things. Pittsburgh has really, really fallen because, like I said, years ago, Pittsburgh was the standard. You go to Pittsburgh, and that was the standard. Pittsburgh, if you ask me, they're the Boston Celtics of football. They're the Boston Celtics of football. If you really look at, I've said this before, if you really look at the Dallas Cowboys, they're the Los Angeles Lakers of football. And the reason why they say the Steelers are the Boston Celtics of football, they do a lot of things very, very quietly. You don't hear a lot of noise about them in the news media. And once a player starts making a little bit too much noise, they get their behinds up out of there. Same thing with the Celtics. So when you think about a lot of things that goes on, they are the Boston Celtics. They was the first team to win 6 Super Bowls. Remember Sixburg, the first team to win 6 Super Bowls. So they are the Boston Celtics of the NFL. So when you put all of that into perspective and you think about how good that organization is and how world-class that organization has been since, rest in peace, the great Art Rooney took over, hey, you got to think about the standard. And if the standard is not being met, eventually somebody got to go. Somebody got to answer for that. And unfortunately, that's going to have to be Mike Tomlin. Do I think that he can succeed and go somewhere else? Yes, I do. But the thing is, I don't think it's ever going to be in Pittsburgh if he keeps coaching the way he's coaching. I think that really, in reality, he's an enabler. He lets a lot of players slide with a lot of, and that's a recipe for disaster. Yeah. So, I mean, Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Martavis Bryant, Claypool,
Le'Veon Bell, yeah.
You have to be a coach. You could go from being a hard behind to to going soft. Tom Coughlin did that. Bill Parcells did that. You can go from going hard to being, this soft touch. You can't go from being a soft touch to going hard because it's kind of like letting your nieces and nephews have ice cream for breakfast every single morning. Now all of a sudden you're trying to make them eat balanced breakfast. They're gonna look at you and laugh at you because they know that's not the real you, and they know that they can't take that serious anymore.
I can't blame you, champ, because again with Pittsburgh, you just got to move on. I believe Mike Tomlin. I agree with you. Mike Tomlin, if he went somewhere else, he can flourish. But the problem with him is that he's allowed bad behavior, and Pittsburgh has allowed him to allow bad behavior on the side. And if you're allowing a head coach to tolerate this type of behavior, then essentially, what does that say about you as an organization?
Yeah, it's going to say a lot about you, the organization. They've always had a lot of trouble players come through that organization. They had Bam Moores come through that organization, Santonio Holmes. Hate to bring this up, Ben Roethlisberger.
No, but it is true. It is true.
They had a lot of trouble players, but production always outweighed, the drawbacks of it. And unfortunately, now it's starting to catch up with them. And they're starting to wait too late in order to get rid of these players. So, and it's just unfortunate for the Steelers. We're not used to seeing the Steelers in the dumps for very, very long. It's trapped in this cycle of just mediocrity where they just can't seem to just kick out of it. So,
and they bring in Aaron Rodgers at this particular juncture to be there for this team. And then he went on Pat McAfee's show saying that this will be his last year. Well, we got to wait and see about that because again, I don't know with Aaron Rodgers what he wants to do. But it's really not much to brag about regarding the trades. I think for Miami, they wanted to move on from Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey wanted to move on from them. So happy for it. As for Minkah Fitzpatrick, you go back to the same team that they drafted you, but you wanted to be traded from. So how's that going to work? I don't know. Only time will tell regarding that situation.